There are moments in life that don't arrive by chance, moments that feel almost sent to you, as if life itself has placed something in your path because you have finally become ready to hear it. If this message has found you today, on this date, at this exact point in your journey, understand something deeply. It is not random. It is a response to something inside you that has been quietly awakening, something you have ignored, resisted, or simply weren't prepared to face. But now, you are. This is the moment when your unconscious begins to move, when the parts of you that you buried, the doubts, the fears, the potential, start rising to the surface because you're no longer meant to live half asleep. You're being called into a higher version of yourself, and this message is the doorway. When life places a message in front of you at a very specific moment, it is never a coincidence. People often think they stumble upon wisdom accidentally, but nothing within the human psyche is accidental. You hear things late, not because the world is late, but because your inner world is still preparing itself to receive what has been meant for you all along. A message arrives the moment your unconscious decides you are finally strong enough to face it. That is why some truths that once felt meaningless suddenly hit you with a force powerful enough to shift your entire direction. You were not ready then. You are ready now. There is a rhythm to the unfolding of a human life, one that you cannot rush through force or impatience. You might think you found this message by scrolling, by chance, by timing, but in reality, it is your inner voice pulling you toward what you denied or doubted within yourself. Something inside you has been stirring quietly, waiting to rise. You have felt it in the subtle restlessness that follows you through your days, in the way certain experiences no longer satisfy you, and in the way you catch yourself longing for something more purpose, more meaning, more truth. That longing itself is a signal. It means the unconscious is knocking. When a person reaches this point, life begins to send signs disguised as ordinary moments. A conversation you overhear, a quote you read, a message like this one, each one appears precisely when you are psychologically prepared to understand it, not a moment earlier. You could have watched this video months ago and it would have passed through you like air. But right now, something is different. You are listening with a deeper part of yourself, not the surface level self that rushes from day to day, but the inner self that has finally awakened enough to recognize a turning point. Many people underestimate the intelligence of the psyche. They believe growth happens through force, discipline, or grinding effort. But growth happens first in the invisible realm, quietly, internally, when your mind starts rearranging itself, when old beliefs begin to loosen, when new capacities begin forming beneath the surface. Before transformation becomes visible externally, it germinates internally, like a seed waiting for the right season to break through the soil. You cannot command a seed to grow in winter. You cannot demand clarity while living in the shadow of your own resistance. But the moment the inner climate changes, the moment you become ready, the message arrives. This is why you should never shame yourself for the things you didn't understand in the past. You were simply not meant to understand them then. Life protects you from truths you aren't ready to carry, because carrying a truth before you are strong enough to act on it does not liberate you, it burdens you. The right message delivered at the wrong time can crush a person, but the right message delivered at the right time can resurrect them. That is what synchronicity truly is, the moment your inner readiness aligns with an outer sign. This moment in your life is not small. It marks the beginning of a shift. You are not listening from curiosity. You are listening because something inside you knows this is meant to reach you now. Something inside you is tired of repeating the same patterns, tired of living in cycles that no longer support who you are becoming. And when a person becomes tired, not in their body, but in their spirit, that is when awakening begins. You are not weak for feeling lost. You are not behind. You are simply standing at the edge of who you were and the threshold of who you are about to become. Maybe you felt stuck. Maybe you've questioned your direction. Maybe you've wondered why things haven't moved the way you wanted them to. But delays are not denials. They are preparations. What you thought was stagnation was actually life preparing you, strengthening you, aligning you with something larger than your present understanding. Nothing is withheld from you except what you are not ready to receive. And the moment readiness begins, everything changes. If you feel this message deeply, it's because it is activating something dormant, something waiting. It is waking a memory of who you were meant to be before the world convinced you to shrink. It is reminding you that your life has always been guided, even in the moments you felt most alone. You were being shaped, not ignored. You were being refined, not forgotten. And now, at this exact moment, life hands you this message as a signal that the preparation phase is ending. This message found you today because you are finally ready to rise. There is a part of you that you've avoided for years, perhaps without even realizing it. A part that you pushed into the corners of your mind because you believed it was too dark, too heavy, too frightening to face. Yet what you have been avoiding is not your enemy, is the very fragment of yourself that holds the power to free you. You call it fear, insecurity, anger, doubt, guilt, or weakness, but those are only the costumes it wears while trying to get your attention. This hidden part exists not to torment you, but to reveal the truth about who you are beneath the layers of protection you've built over a lifetime. Every human being carries a shell, a place where the rejected parts of the self are stored. And because it is hidden, you assume it is dangerous. But the truth is the opposite. What you hide becomes dangerous only because it remains unseen. When you lock something away inside your mind, it does not disappear. It grows roots. It spreads through your life, shaping your decisions, influencing your reactions, and coloring the way you see yourself. But when you turn toward it, when you allow yourself to sit with it honestly, you discover it was not darkness at all, only unlived potential waiting to be brought into the light. You have spent so many years trying to be strong that you forgot strength is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to walk into the fear and let it speak. The parts of yourself that make you uncomfortable are not obstacles, they are invitations. They ask you to become more than the limited identity you've clung to. They push you to grow in ways comfort never could. And when life keeps repeating the same challenges, the same emotional patterns, the same disappointments, it is not punishing you. It is pointing you back to the door you have refused to open. That door, the one you hesitate to touch, is the one that leads to your breakthrough. Most people spend their lives running from their shadow. They distract themselves with work, with entertainment, with achievements. They try to outgrow their wounds by pretending they don't exist. But what you run from follows you. What you suppress becomes stronger. And what you avoid becomes the silent architect of your life. The only way to break free from repeating the same inner struggles is to turn toward them with the courage to understand them. Your shadow does not want to harm you. It wants to be integrated. It wants to be acknowledged. It wants to be brought home. Think about the times you've reacted more strongly than the moment demanded. The times you felt triggered, overwhelmed, or unexpectedly emotional. Those moments were not weaknesses. They were messages, signals from the parts of yourself you left behind long ago, rising up because they could no longer stay silent. They were asking for you to stop running and finally listen. They were asking to be healed. And healing does not happen through avoidance. Healing begins the moment you stop saying, "Why am I like this?" and instead ask, "What is this part of me trying to show me?" Because behind every fear lies clarity. Behind every insecurity lies a truth you have not accepted yet. Behind every wound lies a strength waiting to be uncovered. You are not broken, you are unfinished. And the shadow you fear is the final piece you need to become whole. You might believe that facing your inner darkness will weaken you, but the opposite is true. The moment you look into the parts of yourself you once feared, They lose their power over you. The moment you acknowledge your pain, it stops controlling your life from behind the scenes. When you confront what you've been hiding, you reclaim what you've been missing. And that reclaimed peace becomes the source of a power you've never experienced before. Your shadow contains your courage, your creativity, your passion, your authenticity. It holds the fire you suppressed to fit in, the truth you swallowed to be accepted, the voice you silenced to avoid conflict. Everything you denied in yourself sits in that forgotten room. And when you finally walk inside, you don't find a monster waiting, you find your power. This is why the guidance you need will never come from pretending to be perfect. It will come from understanding your imperfections. It will come from embracing the parts of yourself you were taught to reject. The world tells you to move forward, to push harder, to ignore the past. But wisdom asks you to turn around and face what you left behind. Not to punish yourself, but to reclaim the parts of your soul you abandoned in moments of fear. And when you finally do this, when you stop running and begin listening, you discover something extraordinary. You realize that the shadow was not a threat, but a guide. A guide that has been waiting for you to become brave enough to meet it. A guide that holds the key to your transformation. A guide that leads you not into darkness, but into a deeper, more powerful version of yourself. The part of you that you fear the most is the part that will set you free. There comes a moment in every life when a person looks around and wonders why things aren't moving the way they hope. You look at your progress and think, I should be further by now. You look at your plans and feel as though they've stalled. You look at the goals you once believed in and question why they seem so far out of reach. And in that quiet questioning, doubt begins to whisper that you are behind, that others have figured out something you haven't, that life is moving forward without you. But this feeling, as heavy as it may seem, is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of preparation. You are not being held back. You are being made ready. There is a timing to your life that doesn't always match the pace of your desires. You imagine your path as a straight line, a consistent march toward the future you want. But life does not operate in straight lines. It moves in cycles, in seasons, in rhythms that are wiser than your impatience. When you feel stuck, you assume something has gone wrong. Yet, what appears as stagnation on the surface is often deep transformation beneath it. You cannot see the roots growing, but they are. You cannot see the internal shifts taking place, but they are shaping you quietly, patiently, in ways that will matter when the next chapter begins. Consider the moments in your past when you rushed into something before you were ready. You felt unsteady, uncertain, overwhelmed. You tried to carry responsibilities that your inner foundation could not yet support. You tried to hold dreams that your character had not yet grown strong enough to sustain. Life, in its strange and mysterious intelligence, will not allow you to possess something that would break you. It slows you down not to frustrate you, but to strengthen you. You see delay as a barrier. Life sees it as a shield. And this is where many people misunderstand the very nature of their journey. They think preparation is the same as punishment. They think waiting means they have been forgotten. But waiting is not abandonment. Waiting is refinement. Waiting is the soul being carved into a shape capable of withstanding the weight of its own destiny. You are being prepared for what you asked for. But preparation takes time, and often that time looks and feels like nothing is happening. You may not notice it, but every challenge you faced shaped you. Every disappointment widened your understanding. Every quiet night where you wondered if your dreams still mattered deepened your resilience. Every person who walked away freed space in your life for something more aligned. Every fear you confronted gave you a new level of strength. All of this is preparation. All of this is alignment. Life prepares you in ways you don't always recognize at first. It pushes you through experiences that teach you patience. It confronts you with setbacks that force you to develop endurance. It brings you people who challenge your boundaries so you learn to stand up for yourself. It gives you trials that reveal who you are beneath the surface. You think these moments are obstacles, but they are actually the training ground for your future self. Imagine receiving everything you've been praying for without the inner capacity to hold it. Imagine reaching the top of a mountain without the strength to breathe at its height. Imagine stepping into a purpose your character is not yet shaped to live. People break in these moments not because they were unworthy, but because they were unprepared. Life, understanding this, slows you down until you can stand firmly in what you're meant to receive. And perhaps the reason you've been delayed is because the version of you who made the dream is not the version of you who will live it. You are evolving. You are learning. You are shedding old identities, beliefs, and limitations. And until you fully step into the person capable of holding your destiny, life will continue preparing you, not out of cruelty, but out of care. You are not behind. You are on the precise timeline that matches the unfolding of your inner world. When life makes you wait, it is never wasting your time. It is investing in your becoming. What feels like a pause is actually a deepening. What feels like nothing is happening is often the exact moment everything within you is rearranging itself. So the next time you look around and feel as though you're standing still, remind yourself that preparation always comes before elevation. Life is not denying you. It is shaping you. And when the shaping is complete, the movement will be undeniable, unstoppable, and perfectly timed. You are being prepared. There is a version of you that your future is waiting for. And it is not the version you have been holding on to. Life will never demand that you remain the same. It will demand that you evolve. And this demand often comes disguised as discomfort, restlessness, or a quiet sense that something within you no longer fits. You start to feel out of place in your own habits, outgrown inside your own routines, disconnected from the identity you've carried for years. This is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that a deeper part of you has awakened and is calling you forward. Your future self is not a distant dream. It is a presence that pulls at you from within, urging you to rise beyond who you used to be. You feel this pull in the moments when you question why certain situations no longer satisfy you, why certain relationships feel too small, why certain behaviors feel heavy on your spirit. What once felt comfortable now feels limiting. What once felt acceptable now feels misaligned. This inner tension is the invitation to transform. Many people mistake this discomfort for failure. They cling to their old identities because they fear the unknown more than they fear stagnation. They tell themselves, this is just how I am, and try to force the old version of themselves to survive in a season where it simply doesn't belong. But life does not wait for you to become ready. It nudges you, it stretches you, it removes things that no longer serve you. It dismantles versions of you that are too small for the destiny waiting ahead. You are not meant to stay the same. You are meant to grow into someone who can carry the weight of your own potential. And this growth is not a peaceful process. Growth asks you to let go of familiar fears. It asks you to stop repeating the story of who you were. It asks you to shed identities that your younger self built to survive, but your present self has outgrown. It asks you to step into a future that does not yet feel solid beneath your feet. This is evolution. It feels like breaking, but it is simply unfolding. You may think the gap between where you are and where you want to be is a punishment. You may think the struggle is proof that you're failing. But the gap is not a punishment, it is a calling to become someone stronger, wiser, more aware, more courageous. The space between your present and your future exists so you can grow into the person capable of living the life you envision. Every time you resist this evolution, life pushes back. It removes what no longer aligns with the highest version of you. It forces you into situations that make you question your beliefs. It brings you challenges that strengthen your character. It gives you opportunities to choose differently, to think differently, to act differently. You cannot become your future self with yesterday's mindset. There are habits you must release. There are emotions you must confront. There are stories you must stop telling yourself. And in that process of release, you will feel discomfort because ego clings to its old shape long after the soul has outgrown it. But staying the same will cost you more than change ever will. Think about the things you dream of. Think about the life you want to live. Think about the peace, the purpose, the clarity, the confidence you long for. These things do not belong to who you used to be. They belong to who you are becoming. And becoming requires transformation. It is not enough to wish for a new life. You must become a new self. You cannot ask life for abundance while holding on to beliefs rooted in scarcity. You cannot ask for love while clinging to wounds that convince you you're unworthy. You cannot ask for purpose while hiding behind comfort. You cannot step into a future built on growth while protecting the identity built on survival. There will come a moment, as it is coming now, when you can no longer return to the person you were. That version of you has completed its purpose. It got you here. It protected you through storms. It carried you through seasons of pain and uncertainty. But now it has reached its limit, and staying loyal to who you were will only keep you from who you are meant to be. So allow yourself to change. Allow yourself to outgrow what once felt safe. Allow yourself to step into the unknown, not because it is easy, but because it is the only path that leads you forward. You are meant to evolve beyond your former self. You are meant to rise into the person your future requires. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not a punishment. It is an invitation to become who you were always meant to be. There comes a day, often quietly, without warning, when you realize you can't keep living half awake. You might not be able to explain it, but something inside you shifts. You wake up in the same bed, walk through the same routine, speak with the same people, but nothing feels the same anymore. The world looks familiar, yet your relationship to it has changed. This is the moment when your soul begins to demand more from you. It no longer tolerates the smallness you once accepted. It no longer allows you to hide behind habits, excuses, or the identity you've outgrown. And even if you try to ignore it, you feel it an internal insistence that the way you've been living is no longer enough. When this awakening stirs, it rarely arrives with comfort. It often shows itself as restlessness, or a sudden dissatisfaction with things that once felt normal. You find yourself questioning choices you used to make without thinking. You feel distant from cycles you once participated in willingly. You begin to sense that the life you've built, while familiar, does not fully reflect the truth of who you are anymore. And the more you try to fit back into your old self, the more uncomfortable it becomes. The soul does not shrink to accommodate the past. It expands. And in that expansion, it pushes you to move. You might notice it in your relationships. Conversations that once flowed now feel empty. People who once held space in your life no longer feel aligned with the person you're becoming. It's not that anything is wrong with them. It's simply that you are no longer the same. Growth stretches you in directions you didn't expect. And not everyone can walk beside you in that new terrain. You begin to see that staying where you are emotionally, spiritually, mentally requires you to dim yourself. But awakening refuses to let you turn your own light down. You might notice it in your ambition. Goals you once chased passionately don't move your spirit anymore. Achievements that once validated you now feel hollow. Success, in its traditional sense, loses its meaning when you're awakening. You start craving something deeper, something real, something lasting, something true. And that longing is not a sign of confusion. It is a sign that your inner world has outgrown the metrics of your old identity. You're no longer motivated by recognition, you want purpose. You're no longer driven by external reward, you want alignment. You might even notice it in your emotions. Feelings you once suppressed rise with new intensity. Old wounds you thought you buried return with unexpected clarity. But this is not regression, it is revelation. Your soul brings old pain to the surface not to torment you, but to free you from it. Awakening requires honesty. And honesty requires confronting the parts of yourself that you've avoided. Every emotion that resurfaces is a message pointing you toward what needs resolution so you can grow. What makes this process difficult is that awakening doesn't ask for small adjustments, it asks for transformation. It asks you to examine your beliefs, your habits, your patterns, your fears. It asks you to step into responsibility for your own life instead of waiting for circumstances to change on their own. It asks you to stop betraying yourself in the name of comfort. And the truth is, this is not easy. Most people choose familiar suffering over unfamiliar growth. But if you're here, listening, feeling something stirring within you, it means you are already past the point of turning back. You've seen enough of your own potential to know that the life you've been living cannot hold the fullness of who you are becoming. There is a moment in every awakening where you stand between two worlds. The world you know and the world you haven't stepped into yet. One is comfortable, the other is calling you, and that calling will not quiet down just because you try to ignore it. It is the voice of your future self, the part of you that knows what you're capable of. It whispers through your intuition, through your restlessness, through the sense that there must be more to your existence than what you've allowed yourself to experience. And you feel it because it is true. Awakening is not a single moment, it is a decision to stop living on autopilot, a decision to stop repeating the past, a decision to stop betraying your own potential by choosing comfort over truth, a decision to finally step into the fullness of your life with both eyes open, both feet grounded, and your entire being willing to rise. You know when this moment arrives, because the cost of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of changing. And when that moment comes, you cannot ignore it. You cannot silence it. You cannot go back to sleep. Because once your soul has awakened, it will never again allow you to live a small life.